You're about to win the war of relationship that begins with the battle of self. Yes, we'll break down how leadership makes you a better husband, but we're going to break this down differently than you expect. I know I'm a mental health therapist and marriage counselor, but today we'll put our modern day books to the side and learn from one of history's greatest leaders. Soldiers, make ready. If Western culture has influenced you, you have a weird association with the word leader. You may think leading your family means giving orders or making the final call, but if that's your strategy, you're already losing the war. After 10 years of counseling men, I found that real leadership looks insanely different. Real men, the best of men, don't make leadership about control. They make it about selfless service. Look, maybe your wife is tired and ready to desert the battle. In 1776, George Washington was in that exact predicament with his troops. But he didn't force them to stay. He actually inspired them to re-enlist. Then in 1777, he revealed that real leadership isn't about authority. It's about willingness to suffer. He didn't do this by giving out commands from his warm cottage. He sat side by side with his men at freezing Valley Forge. He wouldn't eat if they didn't eat. He didn't receive pay if they didn't receive pay. In this video, I'm going to teach you to be a better leader and husband. You may think you have a good idea about who George Washington was, but I promise to show you some little known facts as well as principles that prove that Washington was truly a man's man. A prime example of how leadership will make you a better husband. My name's Jordan Joaquim, and I'm a licensed mental health therapist and marriage counselor that has been working in this field for over 10 years. But today, I'm not here to be your therapist. I'm here to be the friend that's going to help you save your marriage. If that's needed for you, by the way, saving your marriage, then don't waste any more time. All of this info in this video is based off my ebook, How to Love Her Like Christ Loved the Church. It absolutely is a marriage-saving ebook. The link's in the description. Most of us set the bar very low when we define leadership. We view anyone willing to step forward or take charge as a leader. True, technically they are, but these are usually the worst of leaders. I don't need to name any names. You already are thinking of old managers, politicians, or unfortunately, parents. I hope that last part isn't true for you, but my goal is to make it so that your kids and spouse can't say this about you. We don't like these leaders because we don't feel connected to them. We feel the opposite. We feel they think they are better than us, don't really care about us, and have no idea what they are doing in the first place. You feel this way because it's true. You don't feel connected to these leaders because they've never been in the trenches with you. You pick up on them thinking they are better than because they are trying to place themselves on a pedestal above you. They do this to help their imposter syndrome. You know, they have no idea what they are doing because they've never done it. What they think they know is what they've guessed, read, or to add injury to insult, have heard from you. This style of leadership does not work. Employees become resentful, wives become frustrated, and divorce lawyers become rich. This won't be your story though. We're here to help you become a better husband. So let's do that. A lot of us blame being bad husbands on not having good examples from our fathers. And that's valid. That excuse didn't stop George though. At age 11, George lost his father and what he thought was his future. George was supposed to inherit some land and go to England for a formal education. He was lined up to receive an upper-class lifestyle. His inheritance went to his older half-brothers, however. This didn't stop George though. His leadership skills started early when he started doing the work to prepare himself. George began reading books, teaching himself mathematics, and became obsessed with self-improvement. Becoming a better leader doesn't start when you begin leading. It starts way before. Get in the mud and start working on yourself right now. No more excuses. In his early teens, George started doing work as a surveyor. Don't let the 1700s fool you. This was not common in his day for boys his age. You can imagine the tough time grown men put him through. It was his precision, integrity, and calm demeanor that made these grown men come to respect him. People trusted him with their land disputes and boundary decisions. Have you seen people arguing about property lines with neighbors on social media? Yeah, it gets ugly. Now imagine if a 14-year-old kid was in charge of making them happy. That's crazy. But it also tells us another thing about being a leader. Great leaders know how to handle stressful disputes with a calm demeanor. While that experience then led him to lead surveying teams and expeditions through dangerous terrains, it was when he was 21 on his first military mission that his true leadership emerged. We needed to send a message to the French in the Ohio Valley. Remember, this was before iPhones and Snapchats. The mission was so dangerous that older, or arguably wiser, officers were refusing to do it. Not George, though. He led a small group of soldiers through the freezing wilderness, survived an assassination, and negotiated with Native American leaders. This mission made him a hometown hero in Virginia, but showed us around the world that great leaders thrive under extreme pressure. It was only a year later when Washington learned another important lesson as a leader. At 22, he lost the Battle of Fort Necessity. And we could argue that this was a necessity. It was the way that Washington handled this loss that showed us what great leadership is. He held himself accountable, remained calm under humiliation, and stayed willing to learn. If you want to be a great leader, you have to be willing to be wrong. But more importantly, you have to be willing to learn from your wrongs. Washington's leadership, like yours, won't appear out of thin air. It will be grown through responsibility, hardship, self-discipline, and courage. You know what's ironic? Did you know towards the end of the Revolutionary War, many soldiers wanted to make George Washington king? Like, did they forget what they were fighting for? No. Like many of us, they were just going through a hard time and wanted to go back to the devil that they knew. The Continental soldiers were fed up with unpaid wages, and they were trying to figure out a way to change this. During the Newburgh Conspiracy, they tried convincing George to become king so that he could solve their problems now versus waiting for Congress to get their act together. Sound familiar? George again showed them what leadership looked like by turning down power for honor. Let's say that one more time for emphasis. Great leaders choose honor above power. George reminded them that this is what they were fighting in the first place, and that if you can't beat them, join them attitude was dishonorable. After winning the war, he did something that was another precedent for leaders worldwide. He resigned. Do you know how crazy this was? Imagine fighting in, leading one of the greatest American battles, succeeding, and then turning over your power without reaping the rewards of your hard work. George wasn't fighting for power. He was fighting to serve his country and did just that. He won the war, walked into Congress, handed over his commission, and then went back to go work on his farm. I mean, come on. That's one of the manliest things you could do. George Washington was the real gladiator. Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. King George, the real King George, heard George Washington was going to rescind his power and was quoted saying, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." You know you are a great man when your enemy that you just epically defeated calls you the greatest man in the world. Great leadership is not just having the respect of those that love you, but of those that fought against you as well. It should come as no surprise that 7 years later, he was unanimously elected president, which, by the way, he's the only president to have ever done this. And guess what? He did it twice. In fact, the people loved George so much that they offered him a lifelong presidency. I don't blame them. No one wants to get rid of a great leader. They want to milk them for everything they got. George reminded us that leadership is not about power and more about humility. He denied that lifelong presidency. Instead, he started the trend that we still follow today, the two-term presidency rule. That exists today because of George Washington. Rather than creating a system that was dependent on him, he created laws to govern instead. George Washington showed us that the best leaders create systems that run successfully without them. So how did his leadership skills impact his marriage? Do great leaders really make great husbands? The answer is an overwhelming yes. We only have a few of the many letters that George Washington wrote to his wife, Martha. The reason is that Martha burned many of them when he died, not because of her heartache, not because of a scandal, but because what they had was so special that she wanted to keep it for herself. Husbands, love your wives so hard that they want your love all for them and no one else. George and Martha were warm and affectionate with one another. George would end letters saying things like, "I retain an unalterable affection for you." And Martha would refer to him as my dearest. Martha came from heartache. She needed a leader like George. You see, Martha was a widow. She had 2 children, and then her husband leave her too soon. She was raising her 2 sons on her own before George Washington, being the leader built on service that he was, decided he would raise that family as his own. Although he never had any biological children, he cared for hers as if they were. The best leaders care for all their people and make them all their own. You know that's actually biblical. Over 30 times the Bible tells us to care for widows and orphans. God wants us to have a heart for the vulnerable. It makes great leadership qualities. The Bible is actually filled with wisdom to help you in your everyday life and marriage. As a marriage counselor, it was a no-brainer for me to hack its principles and put it together in my ebook that I titled, How to Love Her Like Christ Loved the Church. In that ebook, I shared how to be the husband God wants you to be by following the example of the greatest husband, Jesus. If you don't understand how Jesus was a husband, you need to read that book. If you want to grow as a husband, you need to read that book. If you want to save your marriage, what are you waiting for? It's the first link in the description. Read that book. George was loyal to his wife in a day where it was uncommon for powerful men to be. They were married for 40 years without scandal or drama. George ran his marriage how he ran his country, with service, sacrifice, and responsibility. We all want that ride or die wife. We want to know that our wives would be willing to do anything for us, as we would do anything for them. George was such a great husband that he got to see this actually happen. George fought the war, but Martha helped him survive it. Every winter, when the army settled into camp, George requested for Martha to be with him. This was uncommon for general wives. Although George was a leader, he knew that he could not do this alone. Martha comforted him and kept him grounded. She was his anchor. Mind you, she was doing this in the freezing winter and was also tending to the wounded while doing so. George was such a great leader that he encouraged her to give up her comfort for the service of others. She too became beloved by the troops, as they called her Lady Washington and Mother to the Army. Great husbands realize that they can't do this alone. Great husbands inspire their wives to a life of service as well. You want to be a better husband, and that already makes you a better man. There is already something inside you craving more. And that more is not material gain, but a mental, emotional, and spiritual one. You want to be a better husband to give your wife a better life. That is service. George Washington would be proud. Leadership is one of the traits you need to get you there. And as we learned, leadership is not giving orders from the sidelines. Leadership is being willing to put in the hard work to learn, courage to suffer, and humility to put others' interests above your own. George Washington was a great example on how to do this. What I also love is that he was not a perfect man. That gives you and me permission to not be perfect as well. Imperfection is not an excuse for inaction. Do what you can with what you have, but continue to gain more along the way. If you like how I exposed George Washington's leadership qualities to make you a better husband, let me know by clicking the like button. This is one of the videos that I'll put on the How to Be a Better Husband series, so make sure to watch the next video as well. If you like the way I present my information and want to really supercharge your marriage, don't miss out on my ebook, How to Love Her Like Christ Loved the Church. People spend thousands of dollars in therapy and court fees. I'm offering you a marriage-saving book for less than the cost of a cheeseburger. Don't miss out on making the rest of your marriage the best of your marriage. Again, the link for that ebook is the first one in this video's description. Hey, I've enjoyed this. This has been a lot of fun. Let me know in the comments if you feel the same. I look forward to chatting with you soon. But until then, God bless you and your family.